We are live.
Welcome to the April 3rd Kent County Planning Commission meeting. I'll call the roll. James Saunders.
Here.
Ray Strong.
Here.
Sean Jones.
Here.
Paul Ruge.
Here.
Jonathan Quinn. Here. Bill Crowding.
Here.
And I'm Joe Hickman. Our first item, we have the minutes of the March 6th meeting. If has everyone read over those? Any additions, corrections, or amendments? If hearing none, I'll take a motion on those two.
I move that the minutes be accepted. March 16th.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Our first item is a legal matter, and we will turn that over to our counsel to introduce that.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last year, you approved a preliminary site plan in the Everton matter, and that was petitioned to the Circuit Court on a petition for judicial review. The court found that the approval for preliminary site plan was not reviewable because it was preliminary, and it would be appropriate for the court to review that at such time the site plan is final. The court also noted, in addition to the vote on the preliminary site plan, there were two other votes. One was for the curb cut waiver, and the other was establishing setbacks for the project. And the court could not tell from the minutes of the meeting as to whether or not those two approvals were final action by the board, or if those approvals were just advisory and to give the board or to give the applicant guidance. And then when the applicant came back for the final site plan approval, you would at that point give final action and final approval for the curb cut and the setback issues. So the court remanded this back to you, and I'll just read into the record the relevant portion of the court order. Ordered that the petitioner's request for judicial review of the preliminary site plan approval is dismissed, and it is further ordered that the curb cut waiver and setback waiver issues are remanded to the Kent County Planning Commission for further action, either 1, indicating that waivers were not approved, or 2, issuing additional written findings as to what they considered and their reasons for approving the waivers. So again, you are to determine today as to whether or not those actions, those two votes you took, were final actions or not. If they were not final actions, then you would consider them when you consider the final site plan approval. If it is your determination that the curb cut waiver and the setbacks were final, then the court is asking you to put on the record today the reasons why you approve these waivers. And my understanding is that the board has had the opportunity to review the transcript from the hearing last summer. And in that transcript, I've reviewed it as well, and it does appear that there was a fairly detailed discussion as to those two issues in that transcript. So, Mr. Chair, I would turn the meeting back over to you unless there's any questions for me from board members.
Thank you, counsel. Yeah, I guess, does everyone understand what we need to do today? As Tom explained, we had motions made back in June of 24 about these issues. I think Mr. Crowdy made them both, and they're here for the review and in the council.
Well, when those plans are submitted to us, it was submitted, in my opinion, in three separate things. The preliminary plan, then they had to request the road cut waiver or curb cut waiver. That was a separate one. And then the building setbacks in the ordinance are 100 feet, but planning staff or planning commission has the right to modify those. They can make them 300, they can make them 50, 10, or whatever. And that was a separate issue. So I know when I made my motion, it was my motion was the intention that was a separate item and wasn't preliminary. And, I can remake them again if that's what you want, but I mean, as far as the curb cuts went, the staff found that the proposal was complied with the spirit and intent of the land use ordinance and the comprehensive plan. They testified that the waiver will not cause a substantial detriment to adjacent or neighboring property. That the Maryland Department of Transportation said the waiver will not create a safety or hazard or increase in traffic congestion. They did say that along Edge Road, they wanted to provide more sight distance coming out of that intersection and requested that they show them where the trees were to be within the state highway removed for that, which according to testimony from Kevin Sharon, that they had marked that out and that had been agreed to that would provide it. And that the applicant testified that the waiver was the minimum necessary to relieve the practical difficulty, and it was not sought for reasons of convenience, profit, or caprice. We made that motion. It was seconded and passed unanimously.
I think I abstained, but
Do we need to remake that motion at this point, or is it?
I believe what you would do is take a vote to affirm
Okay.
that that motion was a separate matter other than the preliminary site plan approval, and it was the intention of that motion to grant final approval of the curb cut waiver. So that would be a final decision by you if you are agreeable to what Mr. Crowding has set forth.
Well, then I make a motion that we reaffirm the waiver that was granted for those reasons listed.
That you put into the record today, and I would just direct the clerk to make sure that what Mr. Crowding has advised today is incorporated into the written minutes of this meeting, because the court will review the minutes. That'll be part of the record for the court. Mr. Mackey had a question.
So take the motion from the set of minutes from the summer and bring it into the minutes for this meeting?
No, what we would do for the minutes of this meeting, Mr. Crowding just articulated or re-articulated the basis of his motion. He discussed things that were brought up at the last meeting. I think he read partially from the transcript and also discussed testimony that was presented at the meeting last summer. So we want to make sure that that is in the minutes of this meeting. So I guess what I'm saying is the minutes should be very detailed. And Mr. Crowding, do you have the transcript in front of you?
Just portions of it.
Could you just, for the record, reference the portions of the transcript? You can just cite the page range, and that way we can have that reflected in the minutes as well.
How you going to make me put my glasses on, Tom?
Yeah.
I guess it would be page 178 from number 19 through 20 on 178, and number 1 through 21 on page 179. Does that carry on? Is that what you're talking
And
about?
Mr. Crowding, I believe, for the record, that the curb cut waiver issue was discussed from roughly
It was from
page, it appears from page,
178 through 180.
yeah, it was discussed a little earlier on, too. On 177, there was a discussion between Mr. Hickman and Ms. McCann.
I don't have that.
Yeah. I'll just note for the record that on page 176, Mr. Crowding states, okay, well, I think you've got a couple of things you've got to vote on. You've got to vote on the 3,000 feet. You've got to vote on the 100-foot first. Mr. Hickman, after the discussion continues, says, okay, we have a waiver on the 3,000-foot curb, a reduction on the 3,000-foot curb cut. Does anyone have a motion on this? And there was a further discussion. So this begins on page 176, leading up to the pages that you've just cited. So just note that for the record.
Now we got to do the setback.
Yes.
Oh, we're going to vote.
You got to take a vote. Yes,
Yeah.
there's been a motion,
Bill
but now
has
we need to have a second and a vote.
Affirmed his motion of the pass, and this, like I said, we're voting on procedure here, not the curb cuts, as it were.
Correct.
That decision we felt was affirming that decision.
And that was a final decision by this
In the
board.
final, yeah.
And I'll second Bill's
All
motion.
right, any discussion? All in favor, I'll poll the question. Bill Crowding?
Aye.
Jonathan Quinn?
Aye.
Paul Ruge?
Aye.
Sean Jones?
Aye.
Ray Strong?
Aye.
Jim Saunders?
Aye.
And I'll vote with the affirmative, with the majority. Okay, we need, to have the same issue on,
Same issue
Setback.
on the setbacks. I mean, that was a separate item that they asked for. And we voted to, they wanted 15 feet along Edge Road, and and they had a 50-foot setback along Chesterville Bridge Road. And so we went with 50 feet along Edge Road to keep it all consistent coming around there. They agreed to that.
The original motion wasn't quite as detailed, so we probably should make sure that we include part of that reason.
That's
The
correct.
original motion was not like the other, was not.
Correct. You want to have sufficient evidence in the record to support your motion. So if there are matters that were discussed at the hearing last summer that are relevant to the motion and support your motion, you should include those matters in the record. Because the court can't evaluate as to whether or not the approval was appropriate unless it has sufficient evidence in the record to determine that.
Or you want us to re-motion it?
I think you can do what you did the last time. You affirm your motion. You state that it was a final decision, and you also articulate into the record the reasons or the basis for the motion, because the court says it's requesting the Planning Commission to issue additional written findings as to what they considered and their reasons for approving the waivers. And where it says written findings, historically, those findings are in the form of the minutes that staff prepares. So you would state those findings on the record, and then Mr. Mackey and his staff would incorporate those into the official minutes of these proceedings. And you can certainly reference the transcript or any portions of the transcript that dealt with this issue.
I don't think there was anything in the ordinance as far as what they had to do in order to get the setbacks established, other than show it on a plan. And for us to determine whether or not that was sufficient or not.
My understanding of the ordinance is that, and Mr. Mackey may be able to shed some light on this, but you as a planning commission can set the setbacks for a development like this, because the setbacks are often a function of how the project is designed and laid out on the property.
And in this particular zone, parking is not allowed beyond the front yard setback lines. Is that correct?
Right, the issue in this, right, correct, is the setbacks aren't actually applied to the building, they're applied to the parking area in front of the building. So that, I think the code is set up to allow you all to make changes as you see are appropriate for the site plan as proposed.
So I believe what you would want to do is put on the record the reasons why you believe that the setbacks should be as they are in your motion.
Well, I think the transcript pretty much shows that, but at any rate, they showed it at 15 feet along Edge Road, and we thought that was excessive to have parking out that far. And that they could live with 50-foot setback along Chesterville Bridge Road, so they could certainly modify that one from 15 feet to 50 feet to accommodate the parking that was required. The reason they gave for wanting it 15 feet was that they didn't know exactly what uses were going to go in there, and they may need additional parking. And I believe it was discussed at that time that if they needed it, they could come back for more. And so we made the motion, or I made the motion to set the front yard setback off of Edge Road at 50 feet, which kept it consistent with the setback on Chesterville Bridge Road. Kevin, the engineer, and the owner agreed that that would be acceptable. Made the motion, it was seconded and carried. And I'll point out that Mr. Hickman voted with the affirmative.
On that one, I did.
And Tom, I don't have all of the transcript. Work with glasses.
Here you go, Bill.
But it's on some pages right after that, I believe. We picked up on page 181. And it finalized it on page 185.
Which is consistent with what you just stated on the record.
Yes. Thank you, Joe.
So you would entertain a motion for this similar to the motion that you entertained with respect to the curb cut?
Yes, sir. And I can't remember what that was, and it was
I
only a
think you
couple
were
minutes ago.
affirming the vote that you took at the meeting last summer, and that that was a final decision by the Planning Commission.
I make a motion that we reaffirm the setback requirement to 50 feet, as was voted on at the June meeting. And that was 50 feet along Edge Road and 50 feet along Chesterville Bridge Road.
And then list the pages just for 180, 180 something.
180 to 186 in the text from the previous Planning Commission meeting.
We have a motion, have a second?
Second.
Have a second, any discussion? I'll call the question. Bill Crowdy?
Aye.
Jonathan Quinn?
Aye.
Paul Ruge?
Aye.
Sean Jones?
Aye.
Ray Strong?
Aye.
Jim Saunders?
Aye.
And I'll vote with the affirmative. Thank you all very much. Our next item is application 2402 Lester C. Jones Ag Preservation District. Are you going to sit here?
Want me to sit out there?
I would.
I'm not gonna vote.
No, it's just, I would just.
Before we start, I didn't know, I checked that Alan Durham he wanted to speak about Everton, did we?
We can have him speak later, but
Oh,
it was,
okay.
I think that was,
Okay.
it was only our decision,
I
what we
understand.
did.
Okay, I just.
Correct.
Make sure you miss it.
It was not an evidentiary hearing.
But
You
we
were-
will allow
Yes, you
comments
can
later.
public comment, right.
Sean Jones has recused himself for the next 3 applications. Staff, go ahead.
Hi, my name's Rob Tracy, for the record. I'm a planning and zoning associate planner. So the first application is Agricultural Preservation District number 2402, Lester C. Jones and Sons, located at 12824 Massey Road. The farm is 250 acres, 58 acres, and meets all the criteria for the creation of the district. Staff would recommend approval.
Okay. And if everyone has read this, the items we talk about are quality of the soil, Ag Preservation Advisory Board is reviewed and recommendation, and then we need to give a recommendation to the county commissioners on this one. I think the staff report is complete, and so if anyone wants to make a motion,
I'll make a motion that we approve or that we send a favorable recommendation for Lester C. Jones and Sons Incorporated to create an agricultural preservation district on their 258-acre farm located at 12824 Massey Road. We find that it exceeds the minimum lot size of 50 feet, or 50 acres rather. At least 50% of the land consists of soil capability classes 1, 2, or 3. The property consists of land which is either used primarily for the production of food or fiber, or is of such open space character and productivity compatibility that continued agricultural production is feasible. It is considered a suitable location in the priority preservation area of the county, and the land has development potential. That good enough?
Ag Advisory, I think, and that's it.
And the Agricultural Advisory Board has reviewed this application and recommends approval of the district, and staff recommends forwarding a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for the establishment of an agricultural preservation district on this property.
I have a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we have a unanimous decision to send a favorable recommendation. Thank you.
Okay, the second farm is also for Lester C. Jones and Sons, Inc., for their 99.55 acre farm located at 13013 Massey Road near Massey. The farm consists of 96 acres of cropland and 3.55 acres associated with the home site. Approximately 96% of the soils are considered Class 1 or 2. There's one dwelling on the property. The farm is zoned AZD and is within the priority preservation area. It's adjacent to over 1,000 acres of other districts and easements and public lands, and it's outside of the 10-year water and sewer plan. Staff would recommend a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners.
Thank you. Entertain a motion on this one. Don't have to make Bill do all the work. Is there
Yeah,
either?
sounds like it, doesn't it? I make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for the proposed agricultural preservation district on the lands of Lester C. Jones and Sons Incorporated, on their 99.5 acre farm located at 13013 Massey Road. The farm is over the 50 acres minimum required. At least 50% of the land consists of a soil capability classes 1, 2, or 3. It lies outside of the 10-year water and sewer service area. Consists of land which is primarily for the production of food or fiber. It is located in the priority preservation area, and the land has development potential, that the Agricultural Advisory Board has reviewed the application and recommends approval of the district. And the staff has reviewed and recommends sending a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for the establishment of an agricultural preservation district on this farm.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. Second. Thank you. Call the, on discussion? Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And, okay, thank you. Go ahead, Rob.
Okay, so the third farm, owned by Lester C. Jones and Sons, is 154.9 acres located on Massey Road near Massey. The farm consists of 95.5 acres of cropland and 59 acres of woodland. Approximately 78% of the soils are considered Class 2 or 3. There is no dwelling on the property. The farm is zoned agricultural zoning district and is within the priority preservation area. It is adjacent to over 1,000 acres of other districts, easements, and public lands. It is outside of the 10-year water and sewer service areas. The farm meets the criteria for the creation of the Ag Preservation District found in the Code of Public Laws of Kent County, Chapter 171-5, and staff would recommend a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners.
Thank you. Anyone have any problem with this?
I just have one question, and that just has to do with the railroad right-of-way. That's not included in this acreage, is it? Okay. Don't want to be preserving ag right.
Anyone want to make a motion, take the weight off Bill a little?
I'll make this one too. I make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners to put Lester C. Jones and Sons Incorporated for their 154.9 acre farm located on Massey Road in an ag preservation district. I find testimony that it exceeds the minimum 50 acres required. It exceeds 50% of the land, consisting of soil capability classes 1, 2, and 3, that generally the land is lying outside of the 10-year water and sewer service area, that the property consists of land which is primarily for the production of food or fiber. I don't know, did it say whether it's located in a priority funding area or not?
It's outside of the priority.
It's not
funding area.
located within a priority funding area. The land does have development potential, that the Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board has reviewed this application and recommends approval of the district. Staff recommends forwarding a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for the establishment of an agricultural preservation district on this farm.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.
Okay. The last farm is owned by Fairfield One LLC. They own a farm that's 203.11 acres located on Locust Grove Road.
Rob, hold a second, because, back. Sorry about that. It's touch and go for a while. Go ahead, Rob, thank you.
Okay, so I'll start over. This is the last application, Fairfield One LLC, on their 203.11 acre farm located on Locust Grove Road in Kennedyville. The farm is entirely cropland. The soils, all the soils are considered class 2 or 3. There's no dwelling on the property. The farm is zoned AZD and is within the priority preservation area. The farm is adjacent to over 1,000 acres of agricultural preservation districts and other preserved lands. It is outside of the 10-year water and sewer plans service areas. The farm meets all of the criteria as found in the Code of Public Laws of Kent County, Chapter 171-5, for the creation of the Ag Preservation District. Staff would recommend sending a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners.
Thank you. Anyone have any thoughts about this one? And if that's okay, entertain an motion.
I make a motion that we send a favorable recommendation for Fairfield One LLC to place their 203.11 acre farm located on Locust Grove Road near Kennedyville in the 2nd election district. That the farm exceeds the 50 acres minimum required, that 100% of the property consists of soil capability classes 1, 2, or 3, that the land lies outside of the 10-year water and sewer service area, that the property consists of land which is either used primary for the production of food or fiber, that it is not located in a priority funding area, and that the land has development potential. We point out also that staff comments that the proposed district complies with MOUF criteria for applying to sell an easement. Therefore, the property meets or exceeds the criteria for creating an agricultural preservation district and complies with the goals of the comprehensive plan to preserve large blocks of contiguous prime agricultural land. That the Agricultural Advisory or the Agricultural Preservation Advisory Board has reviewed the application and recommends approval of this district, and staff recommends sending a favorable recommendation to the county commissioners for establishment of an agricultural preservation district on this farm.
Thank you. Any second? Second, any discussion? And I'll note before the vote that Mr. Jones, Sean Jones is back into attending the meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you, Bill. We'll send it favorable. Thank you, Rob. Is there anyone in the audience would like to address the commission on any matter? Step forward.
Janet Christensen Lewis, Millington, Maryland.
Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to congratulate you on putting forth and allowing these farms to move. They are all farms that are in prime agricultural land. It's nice to see that we're upholding our comprehensive plan. None of these are in any areas where water and sewer would be, and I wanted to thank the commission for approving all of these to be put into agricultural districts. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience or online? There's nobody on. Step forward, sir. Could you state your name and address for the record?
Yes, Alan Durham, Galena, Maryland.
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Just want to make a comment on the Everton setback and curb cut. My address is Galena, but I can throw a stone and hit the property that these warehouses are going to be built on, right across the road from me. And it's just a big concern about the curb cuts and setbacks because when you're close as I am, every foot counts, that you can get things pushed back. I don't know what the normal setback would have been. Now it's 50 foot. I don't know what that would have been if you hadn't changed it for them. I don't know, what was it, 10 more feet or 100 feet? I don't know the answer to that. I don't know whether you can answer that or not either, right here, right now. But the other thing I was concerned was with the preliminary approval. They said they were going to put a berm. That was not on there. So the setback's been changed on Chesterfield Bridge Road and curb cuts, and now there's no berm. So as someone who's living right across the road, I have a little concerns about that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Does staff want to address or on the decision on, in our land use ordinance about the decision on setbacks?
I don't have the staff report in front of me.
Can we get back to you on that?
Okay.
We want to look at the staff report to get the.
Okay.
Okay. So,
So in general, what I can say is the process is designed especially for industrial development in Kent County, that those are flexible setbacks for the purpose of making a project be a good fit for the particular piece of land it's on, right? We don't have very much of that land. It's usually, kind of the normal parcels that you see. They're not, orthogonal. So it gives you the opportunity to work on a design that fits the property. So that's the intention.
I would understand that, but I also think there should be some consideration that is the one road where there's houses on the other side.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
And
The other comment I have is that Chesterfield Bridge Road is a tar and chip road. To allow trucks to come out on that road, to me, I'm just an ordinary old guy, is ridiculous. I mean, I don't know. Number one, it's going to be close to my house, so it's going to be a lot of truck noise because it's close. and is going to tear that road up, so the county better be prepared to spend some money on that. So, to me, it's not good, but,
I understand, sir.
thank you.
Thank you for coming.
I think I can add one more piece to your question. So,
Sure.
because in this particular district, the setback is applied to the parking lot and not the buildings, as in most places, even with the reduction, the buildings were still further back than the normal setback for the area. I don't remember the number, but I recall that being the issue. So the building isn't closer than the normal setback, just the parking area. That's all.
Thank you, Bill.
Part of that approval too was they did have to come back with berms.
Did you hear that, Mr. Durham?
I'm sorry,
I said that when that was granted preliminary approval, part of that approval was a condition that they did come back with berms on that site.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in public? Staff reports.
We do have a transportation priority.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, that snuck in.
It's on the second
I
page.
apologize. That.
That's
Yep,
okay.
It got on the second page, I'm sorry.
So every time this year, we come to you with the county's annual transportation priority letter. Those items generally stay the same from year to year. I always reach out to the towns. Galena had some few minor adjustments to their language. Millington and Rock Hall both said they were fine, as well as Chestertown. And Betterton's is a very small request. I didn't hear from them, but I assume that's because they're fine with the request. So this goes to the Board of County Commissioners. And this year, I think the MDOT has made it clear that there is really no money. So we can ask, but it's probably going to be whatever's in the pipeline, already approved, already funded, is what one can expect. So our big ask every year, and this is based on our comprehensive plan, is the second crossing into Chestertown, sometimes called the Chester River Boulevard project. That was, in 2010, estimated to cost around $640 million. I'm going to just take a round number and say I bet it's $1 billion by now. I enter that project to be ranked by the state every single year. We're always the last on the bottom of the list because we're not contributing any money. And this year, we're actually not eligible to be ranked because our project is more expensive than the cap. They're well aware that this is our big ask, always has been. So it's still in their system. It's just not going to get a ranking in the project. So when I first came here, I started the process of bringing this letter to you all, so you are aware of it. You are the Planning Commission, and along with the general plan and just sort of general land use, you also are responsible with coordinating transportation. So I wanted you all to get a look at the letter. But granted, the letter is nearly always the same every year. We have the same needs. The comp plan hasn't changed. So, but just want to get your recommendation to the county commissioners, and we can make any changes. You know, we can include that with your recommendation if you wish.
You know, Bill, I'd like to see on that Butler Town sidewalks in 298, 297, and 292, if we could get something from the school board on that, because they don't pick up children with a school bus if they live within a certain radius of that school.
Right.
And I'll tell you, in the mornings and in the afternoon and in the evenings, those kids are walking on roads that, you know, they're dangerous. And this has been going on since the 1970s. And I would think that the state would put that as a pretty high priority. Now, it hadn't been in recent times, but I can remember at least 2 children getting run over and killed out there.
Oh, gosh.
And, I mean, you know, we keep putting houses up. We got a new development on Chesterville Road, or not Chesterville, Smithville Road. Those kids now have to walk on that, and there isn't even a shoulder on that road. So I think that maybe if the school board stepped in and maybe signed on to something like that, maybe it might push that ahead a little bit more.
I'm happy to reach out to them.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else got any additions or?
Kind of like saying you're taking your kid's Christmas shop, but you don't have any money, so. I mean, but I'm sure air commissioners will jump on it and get that.
We need to make a recommendation to send this letter to the county commissioners.
I make a recommendation that we forward this letter from planning and zoning, or the the county commissioners to the State of Maryland Department of Transportation to the county commissioners for their signature.
Second.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll do that. Thank you. Any staff reports from, oh, go ahead.
I just wanted to, sort of for point of clarification, Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I wanted to ask your attorney a question, sort of for the record.
Sure.
Okay, so, and we've mentioned this before, the item that was just handled under legal, my understanding is if there were a suit, judicial review, to follow that decision, it would not stay our process of review. My understanding is when you go to the Board of Appeals, it does stay review.
I don't think it does unless the petitioner requests a court order staying it. I don't think there's an automatic stay.
Okay.
That's my understanding. But
Thank you.
again, the applicant proceeds at his or her peril, because if the applicant spends time and money going forward, and then the petition for judicial review is successful, then the applicant is out their time and money. So it's really a call for the applicant as to whether or not they wish to go forward.
Okay, yeah, thank you. I know we're probably going to get questions, so thank you. All right, and that's all I wanted to ask. Thank you very much.
Rob, Carl? Staff reports? Beth? Nothing. Anything up here for the greater good? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Welcome to the board, by the way, John.
Yeah, John. Got a little fire into the